So with that, Chase, I'm going to let you take it away, and I'm going to spotlight you.
Whoa. Yeah, great. And
yeah,
if you spotlight our members
I
as well,
will.
would be
Yep.
great. So everyone, this is a taste of how we work through challenges in one of our sessions. And we use something very specific in order to work through our challenges, which is what we call the sidebar process. And the sidebar process is really based on a quote from Einstein, who said, if I had an hour to solve a challenge, I'd spend 55 minutes asking questions and 5 minutes thinking of solutions. So Emily said it really well, that our goal here is to coach one another through our challenges, as opposed to just, throwing out ideas, solutions, and advice without full context. So I'm going to share my screen here really quickly so that I can show everyone a little taste of how the sidebar process works. So on my screen here, oops, can you see the screen share? Yeah, it disappeared for me. You can see that the sidebar process is 5 key steps. So we begin with the person in the hot seat, if you will, sharing their challenge. And we often say 90 seconds or less, we need you to share what's happening, why it's important, and how the group can support you. Another member of the group will then restate the challenge just to make sure we're all on the same page about what we're about to work through. And then we'll spend the bulk of our time coaching. So asking what and how questions to deepen our understanding, and perhaps asking some questions that get the person in the hot seat to think about their challenge through a new lens. Finally, we'll dive into some advice, so suggestions, ideas, and advice. And then at the end of the section, the member who's in the hot seat will share a commitment. So here's what I'm going to do based on this conversation. These were my key takeaways. And in the top of our next session, I'd like you to follow up and ask me about X, Y, and Z. So with that, Sally is in the hot seat today. Sally, can I have you in 90 seconds or less share what's happening, why it's important, and how the group can support you?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Sally. I'm a head of product at D10. At D10, we are a video conferencing solution company. We partner with Zoom and Microsoft Teams to make a hardware software product for our customer. The challenge that I'm running into is that starting last year, I have a direct report, a product designer that started to have a little bit bitter attitude, not only towards me, but also leaders in the company. So for example, doing our one-on-one or doing his meeting with another leader talking about a specific project, he will come off a little bit arrogant, as if not wanting to be coached or assign tasks to him. So this is not only the feeling that I got, it was the feedback that I got from other leaders as well. And then later last year, I went on my maternity leave, and recently I came back. And last week, I went back to the office to visit the team, and found that actually that product designers still have that attitude. And it seems like it didn't change the past, 4 or 5 months that I was away. So I'm hoping the team here can suggest some, approach to see how to work with direct reports that you may have that have a little bit of not respecting other people in the company and may have some bitter attitude going on.
All right. Thank you, Sally. Great job bottom lining. Could I have another member that is spotlighted right now in our group here restate the challenge just so we're all on the same page?
I'm happy to jump in. This is Tui. Hi, nice to meet everyone. Do you want us to do intros at all, or just jump right in?
How about like a one-liner intro?
Okay. Super excited to learn more about Sidebar. And so thank you, Chase, and also Sally, excited to try to help. I lead product design and marketing at Ampla, fintech Series A startup. Okay, so challenging. So I feel you're like sometimes these challenging, but also really, I'm sure, smart, brilliant employees are the hardest to deal with. So maybe just some to restate a bit of, I think, what we heard. You have a situation with an employee who is on your team, who has appears to be somewhat challenging and disgruntled, and is not open to receiving new assignments, new projects, kind of very sounds like difficult. And not only is this individual difficult with you, but also has been difficult with others as well. And that kind of sentiment exists in terms of them being a challenging person to work with and difficult amongst other leaders within the company as well. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct.
Beautiful. Thanks, Tui. Let's
Mhm.
jump in for some questions. And in these next 5 minutes, I would like if we only asked questions. So we're not quite at the advice, suggestions, and ideas state yet. Looks like we have some hands up. Jess, why don't you kick us off? And then we will head down to, I can't see the name. Jess, kick us off.
Cool. Thank you, Jess, VP of Product at Clockwork. Thank you for sharing today. And I was curious. So you've mentioned a number of times that they have like a bitter attitude, and they seem arrogant. And I was curious what your definition of that is. Like what are some of like the actual exchanges that are happening? What do those look like? And then what methods have you attempted to use to kind of coach them currently or in the past?
So the example would be when I have one-on-one with them, the arrogant will come on, like if I suggest some ideas to brainstorm some ideas, or other leaders suggest some approaches to him, he would very fast like bend on why this doesn't work and his works the best. So this is like one of the very quick example of he's actually very, very a smart person. So sometimes maybe that is part of his personality. So because of that, I have been talking with my C-suite manager on what is the best way to work with him too. So instead of very explicitly coaching him, my approach would be asking a lot of questions to help him and guide him think through the problem that he's having. And then the other way would be I would bring on my the whole team to come together to solve the problems together with him. However, the outcome will be the same. For example, when we have other people come on to solve the problem together, he would ban all the other opinions or suggestions and ideas. The outcome would be the same.
All right, let's pop down to Vinay and then Libby.
Hi, this is Vinay. I work at Workday. I lead multiple development teams. I'm from the engineering background. The specific question I have for Sally is, I think, Sally, your observation is very good. I think you made an assessment that there is some problem with the coaching or mentoring aspect where the person is not open-minded in terms of taking the feedback. I have two questions. One is, was the feedback shared in the context of specific outcome, like so meeting happened and everyone is trying to educate him what can be done a little bit better? Is there an opportunity for the person to take the feedback well? did that happen? Like explaining the context of the feedback and how did it impact the team and the business outcome? That's first question around the feedback. And the second question is, what could be the specific reasons why you might think the person is not willing for coaching or mentoring? Is this truly he's responsible for his career experiences versus he's not in a position to understand that it is impacting him and his career experience?
So to answer your first questions, I did tell him the feedback that I received from other leaders and how that would affect him in terms of working with others, and something that maybe in a softer way that he should improve on. And then after I told him, he would receive like passively, quietly, but then they will repeat again. So that's number one. And then to answer your second question is that I don't think he's like intentionally doesn't want to be coached, but maybe he was under a lot of pressures. So on the other side, I try to not talk about like coaching him, but try to see or release some of his pressures, maybe from work or personal life, to see, if that helps.
All right, Libby, jump in.
My name is Libby Gluck. I oversee marketing strategy at a global bridal house. My question, I have a couple, like everybody else. Is this person a high performer? And kind of the idea of like, why is this behavior being permitted if it's a known issue? And then the other question is, have you gotten any insights from other people who maybe worked on the team, or just any insights into like what motivates this person that might influence them to, go to arrogance or become inflexible, when they get feedback?
So your first question, he's definitely a high performer, but I won't say that because he's a high performer, the attitude is permitted. That is not the culture of, our product team is seeking. And then, I'm sorry, can you repeat your second question?
Oh yeah, what kind of motivates, what do you think, or have you had any kind of conversations around what might motivate this behavior? And any kind of past experiences or former managers, or, kind of lack of feeling success or something, that this person thinks like their idea is clearly the best. I guess that would be my question is, have there been any conversations kind of exploring why that's their go-to behavior?
No, so that has not been explored at all. But I think what motivates him to such is definitely the pressure that he's in, and either work or personal life. So the time I would always suggest him, take some times off. Don't just work, 24/7. And then earlier last year, actually, he did travel a bit, and then came back better. But again, it repeats again.
Okay. So for the sake of time, we're going to transition into some ideas, solutions, and advice. Minaka, you had your hand up next. Are you ready to share some ideas with Sally?
Well, I still had a few questions, but so here's what I've gathered so far. So you've given him good, consistent feedback, it sounds like. It also sounds like this is a consistent feedback from other leaders, peers, people who work with him. So it's not a one-off behavior. Third, it sounds like he's a very good, high caliber performing talent. So that's why, we're still sticking with him, still trying to make this work. What's unclear to me so far is what drives, what motivates them, and if there's something externally in their personal life that's driving that behavior. And also, if at any point in time since they were hired, have they exhibited acceptable behaviors per se? And so I would have kind of liked to see what really worked for them in the past and what's not working now, and how do we anchor around that and bring whatever was really motivating them when you hired them or when you've seen that good behavior, and try to create that environment for them to succeed. But at some point, you have to kind of figure out if, having tried all of these, having been a good manager, a coach, maybe even having considered, another thing that it has worked for me is providing external coaching. If we believe in this talent and we want to grow them and nurture them, maybe providing external coaching talent that can give them a third-party perspective. Having done all of that, if you get to a point where you still feel like, the benefits are not commensurate to, all the behavioral toxicity that's coming, then, you would have to make some hard decisions there. But that's going to be my take on it, and don't want to hog the time. So I'll leave you with that thought.
We'll keep going on with some ideas, suggestions, and advice. Tui, you were next, and then we'll hop down to M-Pro Consulting. I'm sorry, we'll have to get your name when you introduce yourself.
Yeah, so some possible solutions, like tough. I feel like they fit into that quadrant of I think they're called the brilliant jerk quadrant, which is the toughest, hardest employee to deal with. And a lot of times kind of adding, I think, to Maneka, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, point. Sometimes it's really hard, but you almost have to have that hard exit conversation, and that this may not be the right place for you, because sometimes they require that to then grow. But let's assume that we want to still give it another go. I think really doing some work to understand what they want out of their career and what makes them happy, and having them do some serious self-reflection and writing, and then having them come back and take some ownership for the situation is something that I have seen work well. But it's like almost putting the problem in their hands and letting them try to come to some conclusions around why they're exhibiting this behavior, and what makes them happy and what they want to have with their career, and putting a little bit of it back on them to do that deep self-reflection and internalization is one suggestion.
Beautiful. And we just have a couple minutes left, so we'll do speed round here. And Pro Consulting, could I have you introduce your real name and a suggestion for Sally?
Hi, my real name is Elena Lehman. I'm the CEO of M4 Consulting, where I'm working with executives on improving their development and reducing costs within companies. What interested me is whether this person is behaving the same way for everybody, or whether there is somebody in your company who can work with him very naturally, and the environment between this person is good enough in that case to talk with this person and ask him what helps him to talk and communicate with this person in a better way. And the second thing, as managers, we always go around things and we try to make things better, but why not approaching directly the person and asking direct questions that will help you understand better on why does he feel that way. And there is a great book about communication. I don't remember its name right now, but if I will post it, about that there are 3 levels of communication. So there is behavioral communication, emotional communication, and direct one. And when you're both speaking in different level of communications, that's when you can't really communicate. So you need to understand how this person communicates, whether he's communicating from emotional way or from direct way, and communicate with the person in the same way, like from the opposite side, so you can have the right communication between you two.
Beautiful. Adam, Jess, and then we're going to return to Sally for her takeaways.
Great. Well, first of all, I think everyone here has had some very valid and important. I don't think there's anything new that I can add. This is all really good stuff. I would add 2 things. that have already been said, but I think I'm going to say them in a little bit different way. One of the things that I study right now in my work is what is it that truly motivates individuals? And I'm not sure if you've ever actually figured that out. And I say that not in a negative way, but oftentimes we find that people just don't even understand what motivates themselves. They may think they are self-aware, but they're not. And I think there may be some incongruency there. And the second point I would just ask is there a possibility that this person just has a problem working for you? And, you know, that's not a reflection on either of you, but it may very well be that there's just something innately in the situation that you find yourself when he reports to you, and it just may not work. And I don't know if there's a right way to answer that question. I find that by asking the question directly, do you have a problem working for me? You often get some surprisingly candid answers, and maybe this person's career is salvageable working for someone else or working in another area of the organization. So that's all I have to add.
Beautiful. Jess, wrap it up and then we'll go back to Sam.
Super quickly, what was coming up for me in all of the shares was actually like the source of consternation in general or pushback. A lot of times I've found that it's fear. So fear of being embarrassed, fear of being wrong or not doing it right, most especially for high performers. So you get this like brilliant jerk, as was kind of said earlier, but it's coming from a place of like deep insecurity and where there's could be like a lot of vulnerability tapped into if we hold a space for that. And that's really challenging. It's not easy to do. And at some point, is it the work of a business who's here to make money at the end of the day to actually coach that into somebody? But if we're meeting our peers and our reports with empathy and concern and consideration, and we have that knowledge walking with us, we might be able to address them in a way that kind of inspires them to show up differently just out of the gate. That's all. Thanks.
Beautifully put, Jess. Sally, we'll return to you. Just a couple of takeaways. What are you going to do based on this conversation?
So thank you everyone for all the suggestions of pros. So I wrote down a few things. Number one is really to find out what makes him happy, what motivates him. The other one of the way to do it is putting the problem back to his hand. Do the reflective writing, so that may help me to understand him more. And then another way is try external coaching or networking with him, peer coaching. All those may be able to help him.
Beautiful. Thank you all for participating in this example, kind of removing blockers section, and to you, Sally, for bringing your challenge to the table.